Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
Scores of persons gather outside the Bahamas Red Cross hoping to seek assistance following the passage of Hurricane Dorian. The Chamber CEO talks about the impact of Hurricane Dorian on the private sector.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Amid heavy criticism over government's decision to send the Defense Force Commodore on leave in the wake of the deadliest storm to hit the Bahamas when all hands are needed on deck, Minister of National Security Marvin is breaking his silence. He says it's all about paving the way for the next generation of leadership in the organization. Jared Higgs reports.
While defending the move as being all a part of the force's transition, Dames acknowledged that he doesn't know what January has in store once Bethel is supposed to come back to work.
Is this a pre-retirement leave for the Commodore?
He's currently on leave.
What happens come January?
Well, what happens come January, I can't tell you what will happen come January.
An internal memorandum dated October 15, 2019, and signed by Captain Adrian B. Criswell, revealed that Captain Raymond King will serve as acting commander of the RBDF until January 2020. On October 6, the Cabinet Office announced King's appointment as deputy commander. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis told reporters on Monday that the decision to send Bethel on a 3-month vacation was made to save taxpayers' money. The Nassau Guardian understands that Bethel has accumulated vacation of just under a year.
What is the issue?
The issue for some is the timing of the move, which comes as Abaco and Grand Bahama struggle to recover from deadly Hurricane Dorian. Security concerns persist, especially on the island of Abaco, where most of the island's infrastructure was destroyed. Dames insists that the transition in leadership will be seamless due to the nature of military organizations.
These agencies, like the Royal Bahamas Police Force and Royal Bahamas Defense Force, right, they're built in such a way where no matter what happens, they continue to function, right? That's why they're military agency and they run by a particular standard. After having said that, I don't understand what the real issue is.
However, the decision to send Bethel on leave comes weeks after the Prime Minister told the Nassau Guardian that more officers were needed on the storm-ravaged islands and government may need to bring up to 50 officers out of retirement to assist. Dames says he spoke to Bethel on Wednesday and described their relationship as good.
He's certainly not overly concerned about anything.
The National Security Minister was asked whether Bethel's performance as Commodore contributed to the decision to place him on leave.
I don't want to get into the position of speculating, nor discussing what is personal to these officers in the press. I think it's unfair to those officers involved. And certainly, I personally don't feel that that's the right thing to do.
Earlier this year, 8 senior officers in the Royal Bahamas Police Force were sent on pre-retirement leave. In March, Dame said more law enforcement officers would be sent on leave. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Operations at the National Insurance Board came to a standstill this morning after employees walked off the job, citing stalled negotiations. In 2 days, those employees will head to the polls to take part in a strike vote. Employees of the National Insurance Board held up placards in the courtyard of NIB headquarters during their tea break Wednesday morning, calling for the removal of Director Nicola Virgil Rolle.
Friday, I want y'all to go to the polls. Yes. I want you to vote yes.
Yes!
Okay? Now, once we hold this strike certificate, we will show them who run NIB.
Yes!
Union of Public Officers President GHION ROACH said contract negotiations have been stalled since April. Despite efforts to have the issues resolved, he said even getting a meeting has been impossible.
We walked off the job because we want to send a message. We've been ignored for too long. We've been disrespected and we've been disregarded. The union has not been dealt with fairly, and we're here to let management know that this Friday, the union is prepared to take it to the polls and we will have a strike vote. The outcome of that vote will be yes, and we will send the message loud and clear.
The union has over 400 members. Many of them came out to vent their frustration, holding up placards that read, "Enough is enough," and "Treat union workers fairly."
As you look around, you will see something that you don't normally see. You see the monitors?
It is all of us. All of us. Yes. Together, we are the success, and we will make this organization successful.
Yes,
Come
yes.
what may.
Yes.
We stand with our brothers. Because guess what? It's them today. If you're doing this to them today, what will you do to us?
Our news ventured inside NIB headquarters, where we sought to get a response from Director Dr. Nicola Virgil Rolle. We were greeted by security officers who escorted us upstairs, where we waited for nearly half an hour. We eventually saw the director in passing as she headed to the boardroom to attend an executive meeting. She assured us that she would speak with us after the meeting. However, we were eventually told by the public relations manager that an interview would not happen and a press statement would be sent out shortly. Over 400 workers will take part in a strike vote on Friday. Until then, union leaders say they will continue to work. However, once that strike certificate is in hand, they will take action, and with the support of other unions.
Yes, disregard it, and we're here to say that enough is enough. So Friday we will vote yes, and we will show them that we will withdraw our services if you will continue to treat us with disrespect.
UPO has been going through this problem for some time, and the Congress is at its wit's end with this matter, and we ask them to please solve it before we resolve the other reasons of resolving this matter.
So we can do what we got to do, and we can let them know we're tired.
Yes.
So Friday?
Yes.
The word is yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Well, National Insurance Board Minister BRENSIL ROLLE said he was shocked to hear of this morning's walkout by NIB staff members. He added he assumed things were going well between the union and executive management.
I thought the negotiations were going fairly well. I know that there was some difference, and I know the compensation package that has been offered or that is being discussed is substantially better than any I've seen in the public service, certainly any I've seen in any of the corporation.
Rolle said certain requests made by the union have already been granted. However, he noted that during a promotions exercise, not all employees recommended by the union were promoted by the director. Well, nearly 2 months after Hurricane Dorian slammed Abaco and Grand Bahama, dozens of storm survivors lined up outside the Bahamas Red Cross during the early morning hours seeking basic necessities. As Georgia Bain tells us, some of those evacuees walked away empty-handed.
Long lines here at the Bahamas Red Cross as storm survivors continue to seek assistance weeks after the passage of Hurricane Dorian. But storm survivors say they're still thankful for life. The entrance of the Bahamas Red Cross is now blocked off by caution tape, and lines are separated by barricades. Draped across those barricades are stop signs. Some persons said they had been waiting in line since 7 Wednesday morning. Communications delegate Katie Wilkes said that the organization is now assisting up to 125 families per day.
So we are seeing an influx of folks that we're helping today. The reason for that is we did have a slight delay in our restocking of our warehouse that was unforeseen, unfortunately, on Monday and Tuesday.
Waiting outside the barricades, we met Frederick Jean, staring at a video of his former home, the mud, on his cell phone. Jean said he has been waiting in line since 7:30, but walked away empty-handed.
7:30 till now, I don't get saved.
Jean said he has received little to no assistance since coming to New Providence.
Only one thing, I go by social service. They give me one card for $100. I go by super value. I spend that. After that, till now, I never find nothing anymore.
Williams rode out the storm in a home with 13 family members. During the storm, they were forced to seek shelter at a different location as storm surges smashed into their home. She waited at the airport for 3 days after the storm, attempting to get off of the island. Now she is seeking assistance. She said the aftermath is just as difficult as the storm. She cried shame on the government for its response.
More could have been done, more can be done. It seems like a lot of persons are reaching out all over the world that has a heart and a love for the Bahamas and actually donating funds, etc. And we're not getting most of them. We're not getting anything, you know. And persons in Abaco who are there, who are saying that we don't want to leave, we want to rebuild, we want to wait it out. Now we're being told that volunteers have to pay to come in, pay on a permit, so the government can do much, much better.
SHANDRICKA Justin recalled fighting to survive as she and her kids walked through waist-high water to safety.
When we get by the clinic, so many people was there. It wasn't nowhere to sleep. After like 2 to 3 days, they tell us we can't stay there. I sleep outside with the kids for 3 days before we make it to Nassau.
Justin said she is grateful for all the assistance she has received since coming to the capital. Reporting for our News, I'm Georgie O'Bain.
Immigration Minister Ellsworth Johnson says vetting of aid workers is crucial to ensure the safety of vulnerable Bahamians. Earlier this week, rumors circulated on social media that volunteers must now pay $300 to secure temporary work permits for volunteer efforts on Abaco and Grand Bahama. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis said yesterday that aid workers with international groups won't face any immigration challenges. However, Johnson today said that Bahamians must have priority for jobs and they are on guard for unscrupulous visitors.
We still have an obligation to prevent the drug trafficker, the human trafficker, the gun trafficker, from just coming in. And the other thing that we must prevent, and we want to say to the world, is that we don't want the money launderer, and we don't want anybody who is engaged in terrorism financing or terrorism activity. So we still have to be at the borders.
Johnson also defended government's response to the humanitarian crisis. This comes as the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights urged the Bahamas to end deportations to Haiti for now. Johnson says government gave consideration to several UN conventions in crafting its response and is following the law.
When we thought about it, we thought about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UN Declaration of the Rights of the Child, the rights of refugees, the rights and privileges of persons who are to be protected by the Trafficking in Persons Prevention and Suppression Act, Mr. Speaker. And so we said that all in the Bahamas were to receive social assistance regardless of race, sex, origin, immigration status, or political opinion. And that was done, Mr. Speaker.
More than 1,600 passports were replaced by the Passport Office in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. Foreign Affairs Minister DARREN HENFIELD presented the Hurricane Dorian bill in Parliament today. Of the 1,602 replaced passports, 1,122 were for Abaconians, with the remainder issued for Grand Bahamians.
This bill represents part of our journey toward reclaiming the things that we have lost in the storm. For all intents and purposes, it is deemed to have come into force on the 2nd of September, the day after Dorian made landfall in the Abaco Keys and subsequently went on to Lash, Grand Bahama. Clause 2 of the bill allows for the Prime Minister to extend the duration of the act for a period not exceeding 6 months.
Now the opposition supported the bill, but Deputy Leader Chester Cooper blasted government over many unanswered questions in the wake of Dorian.
They want to rebuild, and they're asking, will they get building supplies, and when, and how will the donated funds be spent, Mr. Speaker? Many of the people who have been impacted had no insurance and very little savings, Mr. Speaker, and they have gone out the window, Mr. Speaker, those little savings. How are they going to provide for themselves and their families, as most are not working now?
The replacement of government-issued documents bill was passed in the House of Assembly with unanimous support. The Disaster Preparedness and Response Amendment bill was also passed, but without the opposition's support. Still to come, government and UB team up to digitize the public service. Stay tuned.